Welcome to the podcast. It's the best podcast in the world. This is going to end up on the show. I know it, motherfucker.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to episode 125 of Epitome of Stupidity, your favorite fucking metal show. The intro today is called Foeman's Flesh, which is the lead track off of Conan's new album, Violence Dimension. That will be released everywhere April 25th. And that's right, the Caveman Battle Doom Titans are back. More on them in the album shortly, though. First, here's a Sonic Temple commercial.
Sonic Temple Art and Music Festival, the pinnacle of rock festivals in America, returns in 2025 with Linkin Park, Korn, 2 nights of Metallica, no repeat weekend, plus Bad Omens, Incubus, Alice in Chains, Rob Zombie, 3 Days Grace, Alice Cooper, I Prevail, Jimmy Eat World, Chevelle, Motionless in White, and so many more. May 8th to the 11th at Historic Crew Stadium in Columbus, Ohio. Passes on sale now at sonictemplefestival.com.
That's right. Coming up just a few short weeks away at this point. That'll probably be the last run for this year's Sonic Temple commercials. We've given away 3 sets of 4-day passes, 4 pairs of single-day passes. All the winners have been notified at this point, and a hearty congrats to them as well. Should be a ton of damn fun, and I hope to see you there. Now, if you're new here, welcome in. I'm Clint. I'll be your host. Please hit the subscribe button to wherever it is that you're hearing this from. If you're not new here, hopefully you've already done that. And you're ready to go. So I don't want to keep you waiting. We're going to go right to the mead read here. At EOS, we're happy to not only provide you with the best interviews with the best bands, but also provide you with a discount for the best mead money can buy. That's right. Go to brimminghornmeadery.com and pick out some of that their bestness. And then at checkout, use code EPITOMEAD. That's EPITOMEAD, all one word. And you'll get the best 10% discount possible. It's best. Moving right along, some quick Clint notes on Conan before we jump into the conversation. Creating the self-appointed Caveman Battle Doom in some form or another since they were formed way back in the 2006-ish era. Violence Dimension is their 7th full length, and it is Conan doing exactly what you want from them. Is it heavy enough to rattle your bones even if the volume is for some reason turned down? It sure is. Do the lyrics create mental images that you're not going to find anywhere else? It sure does. Does it make you want to strap on a fucking bunch of medieval armor and ride a horse into fucking astral battle? Yes, it fucking does. Now that I'm all fucking fired up, let's get John on the phone from all the way across the one of these fucking ponds and talk all things Conan. International phone sounds. Go. Beep, 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 boop. Ring. And he answered. On the line with me today is Jon of Conan. John, how the hell are you today?
I'm really good, thanks. Really good, thanks. I've just had a relatively easy day. I've got all my Easter eggs sorted for the kids tomorrow, and yeah, I'm in fine fettle, thank you. How are you?
I am splendid as well. I did not have talking Easter eggs with Jon of Conan on my 2025 bingo card.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, well,
quick.
There we go. Just dad talk, isn't it?
Yep. So whereabouts you call it from there, John?
I'm in Crosby, which is in near Liverpool, just on the coast. Sort of halfway between Liverpool and Southport.
Somewhere across one of those damn oceans.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Right by the sea.
So we'll jump right in here. At this point in Conan's run, it's you with guitar and vocals, obviously, Johnny King on drums, and I believe this is the first album with David Riley on bass. How did that come to be, and why did he have to end up joining the band?
Okay, so Dave is former bass player in Fudge Tunnel, one of my favorite bands, and a band that has been an influence on me since I first heard them. And I remember, like 2018, I think it was. I had a little project which is still going called Ungraven.
I believe you just released an album with him.
Yeah, man, that was just yesterday.
Yeah.
So Dave I was looking to move Ungraven to a position where we had a drummer and a bass player. And of course, I was talking to Dave about him playing bass on it. And he did. We played one live show and recorded a split, or a few tracks that we did on a split with Slamatics. And we got to the point where the songs I was writing for Ungraven were sounding a bit too much like Conan. So decided to sort of put that on ice for a little while I had a rethink. And then an opportunity came for Dave to step in for Chris on a couple of Conan festivals appearances. So we did a couple of festivals back in 2000. I'm sure it was 2018, maybe it was 19. But Dave stepped in for Chris on those, and then he did a tour with us, and then he's done another tour with us, and then we got to last year, I believe, or the year before, and Chris said, you know, obviously Chris decided he wasn't able to stay in Conan with other commitments, totally fine. And the obvious choice was to get Dave to step in for Chris, and it was a seamless transition. And most people will know, but Johnny's been in the band since like 2017. And I think he's probably the longest serving drummer we've had by quite a while. So that's good for him.
Yeah.
He's obviously doing a good job, isn't he?
And drummers are hard to come by.
Yeah, that's true. Good ones are hard to come by. We've been very lucky because every single person who's played drums in Conan has been phenomenal. Been very, very lucky. And, you know, it didn't work out for one reason or another, but the playing was brilliant on all of them. So can't argue with that at all. But Johnny is like a really lovely person, a really great drummer, lots of fun, and he just fits in with us on lots of different levels. So I am very lucky to have him in the band.
I certainly wouldn't argue that based on what I hear.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, he's great.
Coming up on 2 solid decades of Conan history, more or less. Let's do a quick Cliff Notes version of the band's history from inception to Violence Dimension, if you don't mind.
Okay, so we started writing Conan riffs sort of around 2005-06. Recorded our first demo in 2007 on the 27th of January, I remember. We then progressed and recorded a couple of other bits and bobs that were reviewed on stonerrock.com, if people remember that. And then the job I was in at that point meant me traveling to Manchester every day, so I had to put Conan on ice. Then late 2008, I started a band called Horn with my friend John McNulty, who's now in Cult Blood. And he played bass with me in a band called Horn. And we recorded a song called Beheaded, which was one of the tracks that we did, or the track that we did when we released the split with Bong Ripper. But yeah, late 2008, 2009, started thinking I'd get Conan going again. We ended up recording Horseback Battle Hammer, released that in 2010. And ever since then, really, we've sort of tried to release an album every 2 years-ish. So, of course, we have Monos, then we have Blood Eagle, then Revengeance, then Existential Void Guardian, then Evidence of Immortality. And, of course, here we are with Violence Dimension as well. I hope I haven't forgotten anything there. Maybe I did. Well, I don't think I did. So here we are with Violence Dimension, which comes out in a week. So we've, a couple of member changes along the way, which is fine. That's inevitable, I think. And we have toured worldwide. Incredibly lucky to have seen every continent apart from Africa so far. And we are, just enjoying being in the band. We all get on really well. And I think we've got a bit of lead left in our pencil, so we'll keep going as long as we can.
Let's talk the differences between recording when you started and recording Violence Dimension, because obviously a massive amount of things have changed in every way, shape, and form since then. Is it?
Yeah.
Which is better? Which is worse? Which is more fun?
Well, I hated the first recording that we did because the guy who did the demos with us it was hard for me to explain to him what I wanted us to sound like. And I guess at that point, my demands were a little bit weird for most people. I just wanted to be super loud but super simple, and I don't think most people. I guess most people didn't really get that. I dare say if we went to record with Butch Vig or anyone who'd recorded the Melvins at that point, they'd have got it a lot easier. So yeah, back then it was hard for me to communicate what I wanted us to sound like. Fast forward to Violence Dimension, and we recorded that with Chris Fielding, former bass player of Conan, long-term friend of the band, and it was his 7th full-length recording with us. So with him, there was, there was a lot less rain, a lot less difficulty in communication. Like, we didn't really have any problem at all. He knows what we want to sound like. We just went in there and played. So yeah, we didn't have any issues at all. So I say the main difference was familiarity, because Chris knew exactly where this recording was going to go, and it's sort of like having a 4th member of the band at that point, which is really, really handy.
As a 3-piece, I imagine more often than not, it's a happy circumstance there to just be working with 3 guys. But I can see where a 4th, especially in this circumstance, would certainly be beneficial.
Yeah.
How was the writing process for Violence Dimension? Is it because I mean, in an absolutely stellar way, this is a fucking Conan album from start to finish. How do you move things forward but still make sure that this is, again, 100% a Conan album?
I always use the analogy of sawing through wood. The more you push, the harder it is. And I'm no carpenter, but most people I guess have tried to cut through wood with a hacksaw when they're trying to, make a change in the house or whatever. The harder you push, the more likely it is that you'll just hit a snag. And I'm a little bit like that with writing riffs. If it doesn't sound great, then I won't pursue it. I'm not saying that always makes a great song, but it definitely stops me following riffs that aren't cool at the beginning. And I think just having that, like, not trying too hard, just playing what comes naturally, that's been really handy for us as well. And so I mean, the writing process for this album was kind of similar, and not pushing it super hard, and just coming up with ideas at home and taking our time and letting them sort of steep. And I'd send riffs over to Dave and Johnny, and then they would comment back on them, and gradually over time we come up with sort of loose ideas for the songs, which made it onto the album. So I think I always enjoy just taking my time when I'm writing stuff.
I think this is probably best exemplified on the title track, where that's a big fucking song, and it's kind of the same riff and different variations throughout. So that would, to me, reads as, this riff is fucking awesome. We're going to have some fun with it for a while.
Yep.
At what point are you there with that thing, working through it and realizing that, yeah, no, this essentially is the song. We'll put some vocals on the back end, but this is things going right.
Yeah, exactly. It was meant to be a little bit like Golden Axe with the track off Monos. So we wanted to write a song a bit like that. So we did, and it came to the point where we were like, it needs something more. And obviously it kicks in and gets a bit heavier then towards the end, doesn't it? And then when Dave was doing the lyrics I wrote out for him were like stupid, and I was kind of half hoping that he would sing them, but he didn't. He improvised and changed a couple of the lines, so it didn't sound bad. So yeah, the song started out just like a really very simple Golden Axe ripoff, and I'm glad that Chris suggested changing up a little bit towards the end, because it really improved it a lot.
It's a hell of a song, man. I love it.
Thank you.
I guess if we're on that subject to some degree right now, I'll jump to, what's your favorite song on the album?
Maybe Desolation Hex, or Total Bicep, or Warp Sword. It's sort of one of those three. It depends on what they're listening to it.
Total Bicep is fucking fantastic song title. Where did that come from?
Well, when we first started recording the demos, which were terrible, by the way, we gave each song a stupid name, and I forget all of them now, apart from Total Bicep. And all of those songs sort of evolved into being, somewhat contributing to the album itself. And Total Bicep was the only song name that stuck. And we thought, what, it'd be cool because cool to keep it, because we get a lot of people working out to our music, like a lot of metal bands. People will say, "Oh, I've been working out to that," and Conan, the whole like muscly Arnold Schwarzenegger thing. I think people are like inspired by that at the gym or whatever. And I thought Total Bicep would be like the perfect song name for some person working out at the gym. And then I just sort of made the song lyrics like loosely about the movie Excalibur. And I thought, if you're into lifting, then and you listen to Conan, and Conan is a band that you listen to while you're in the gym, I want to make a song just for you. And I thought, well, and this is it. So we sort of made it sort of fast. There's some D beat in there, some like regular hardcore riffs, and then towards the end it just gets like super slow. And that's exactly what we were after. We just wanted to make it sort of, no matter what type of music you're into, you'd enjoy it while you're working out. And it was as simple as that, really. But the name itself was a joke name that we thought, well, we'll keep it because it's not too bad.
Yeah, it's fucking great. I love it.
Thanks.
The whole kind of full circle type thing, for me at least, where Conan, you get the mental image of fucking Arnold there to start with, because the movies, obviously, and then you bring it back to talking about Arnold and the Total Bicep thing, and it makes me happy.
Yeah, same.
Going with titles here, Violence Dimension is a hell of a title as well. Where did that come from?
It's a little bit of a rip-off of Dimension Hatros by Voivod, which was one of the albums that I was shown by our US and Canada booker, Nate Carson. And he sent, he got me listening to Voivod, and on a visit to Portland last year, when I was just working on some rehearsals with Kevin Schwartz, who was our drummer on a US tour a couple of times. And he introduced me to that album, got listening to it, and I was just absolutely blown away. And the word dimension just kind of stuck with me. And then when I was starting to write like lyrics and starting to work on song titles, it quickly, and right at the beginning of that process, it quickly became a thing that I wanted to make the album name sort of like influence the track names. So I thought, well, all of these songs are kind of about like conflict and warfare, and it's sort of like along the lines of, well, look, just how violent is the world now? And I was like, well, maybe it's always been that violent. And then I thought, well, yeah, of course it is. We're like in the dimension of violence. This is the violence dimension. This is where we are. And then it just came from that. Just sort of the idea that no matter where you are, you look to your left or your right, you're probably no more than a mile away from violence in some form, and we get fed it a lot in the news, in our history, in our future, because we're always fighting over some like future goal. Movies and music, there's always sort of conflict and violence. So I guess I'm just kind of dealing with that fact through the album.
The next question I've got lined up here is to ask about lyrical themes. I feel like we may have already covered that one though, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. The no surprises in the lyrics, really. Most of our songs are about the battle between good and evil, and we vary the angle on that, depending on what the track name is or what the lyrical content is. But yeah, generally the lyrics are, think of a couple of phrases that sound cool and feel good to say, and if they fit in with the riffs, great. If they don't, add a word or two and try and make them fit. And then beyond that, the actual content itself, I always try and make it sort of, in the realms of fantasy or sword and sorcery or just plain old computer games or just basic violence and fighting. And that's the sort of thing that gets my blood going when I'm writing lyrics. Like the previous album was written, basically the perspective of like being horrified at what was happening in Ukraine at that time and now. And Violence Dimension is a little bit more of an abstract look at those issues.
I love the juxtaposition, and this isn't the only album where you do this. But there's a handful of 10-minute songs, and then there's a fucking 45-second song, or the one's a little over a minute, I think, just to kind of keep everybody.
Warp Sword.
Yeah, Warp Sword. I think that was actually the single, right?
Yeah, we released 3 videos, and one of them was Warp Sword. That was the most recent video, actually. And that was a bit like Ritual of Anonymity or Incantation. It was just an idea in the studio, and I'm like, just started messing about, and Johnny was just like tinkering around doing his thing, and I said, Johnny, play along to this, and I just started playing that riff, and it's just the same riff throughout the whole song, pretty much. And I just said, Johnny, just play along to this. So we're just playing this like super fast, like hardcore song, because we listen to a lot of hardcore, and it's cool, it's just like the lyrics are daft, and it's all about like the second coming of the person that I sing about in Levitation Hoax. But like the song itself is just like a super fast hardcore song, and that's what we like to listen to. So it was an easy one to do.
So this kind of works in reverse to what we were talking about with the song Violence Dimension, where we're going to see this riff out, we're going to do some shit with it, but then on stuff like Warp Sword, we're going to get in, we're going to get out. This is it. When do you know that there's the difference there? How do you know that there's the difference there?
It depends on the vibe of the song. Some songs you just know it's going to be less than a minute long because of the way it is. We couldn't play a song that fast and make it a long song. It
10
just
minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm 48 now. There's no way I could do anything that fast for 10 minutes. So it's just like, let's make it an impactful song that, if the pit is going at a show, we'll throw that in without warning, and I'll keep people going. And I think it's cool to have a variation. We can't play Krull forever, so we got to mix it up.
What is the writing process overall for you like? Is it, you started talking a second ago about sending the other guys riffs and them commenting on things. Is it more of the file sharing thing, or do you guys get into a room and sort things out? Is it lyric and vocal medleys, then the riff? Is it vice versa? Walk me through it.
Yeah, usually I'll come up with riffs and I'll play along to Easy Drummer in the studio, and I will come up with loose song structures using a drum emulator like that. And then when I think it sounds cool, I'll send it to the lads and just like, take a look at this, see what you think of this. And more often than not, they'll come back and say, yeah, that's great. Or sometimes they'll say, I'm not so sure. So their feedback is really valuable. And then when I'll sort of knock the song into a shape a little bit, and then next time we rehearse, I'll try and play it to them in rehearsal. But with this album, we did have a few ideas, and we did rehearse only just a couple of times, and the rest of it was done online, which actually seems to be the most productive way for us to do it now. And then we got in the studio with Chris with our 10 days or whatever it was in the studio, and during the first 4 days or whatever it was when we recorded drums, we just kind of knocked the songs into shape then. So I used to get really stressed about trying to make the song ready for the studio, whereas I don't now. We'll get like a loose idea and then we just write it in the studio. It always turns out better, and it always sounds less like the previous album because we've improvised some of it. We've just sort of played it on the hop, and I think a lot of the time that we get better material doing it that way.
Tony Roberts has been doing phenomenal fucking artwork for you guys for a long time, if I understand things correctly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It fits everything so well. Do you give him any kind of direction beforehand? And if so, what was the direction for this one?
There is, we don't give him any direction at all. We don't need to because he's been with us that long. He knows. We got lucky when we first started working with him. We got lucky to work with someone who is able to, without being obvious, create imagery that complements the music that we're asking him to write, to make artwork for. From Horseback Battlehammer all the way through to Violence Dimension. His art is always close enough to be recognizable as a Conan cover, but not so obvious that it looks like the last one. So we really respect his artistic vision, and we don't need to tell him what to do. And that is one of the best things about it. We just let him get on with it, and he does a brilliant job. And he's a lovely fella, and we just get on really well with him. And we've released 7 full-length albums now, and he's done the art on every single one. And also we've done other releases that he's also done the artwork on. And we're just dead lucky because you see bands who don't really have an identifiable art style. And we don't compare ourselves to Iron Maiden in any way, apart from when you see an Iron Maiden cover, you know it's Iron Maiden. So on a much smaller scale, like in a micro scale compared to that, you'll see that when you see a Conan album cover, you know if you're into this kind of music, you'll know it's a Conan album cover straight away.
Absolutely. I believe this is also your first album with Heavy Psych. How have things been there so far?
Sorry, I'm laughing because my mum is crawling along the floor behind me, so she doesn't get seen. Look, she's on the So yeah. Anyway, my mum's.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, she's literally crawling on her hands and knees so she doesn't come in the picture. Can you ask me that question again, please? I'm just so amused by what just happened.
I am too. It was Heavy Psych. This is the first album with Heavy Psych. How have things been there so far?
Brilliant, yeah. Brilliant. Gabe is a good guy. He's very hands-on. He's an independent label owner, so he's an entrepreneur, which I respect because I am too. So I love his hustle. I love the fact that he's built the label up to the point that he's got it to, and I want to be a part of that too. So when Gabe got in touch, we were thinking that maybe we'd work with other labels, and he just got us at the right time, and we had a good chat with him, and it was a very easy decision.
With as heavy and low as so much of Conan's music is, I feel like you've somehow got a guitar where the frets start after the open. It's like negative frets or something.
Yeah, -3. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. What are you actually tuning to? And do you have to use like telephone poles as strings?
Sorry, I'm laughing again because the mum's just crawled out the room.
Coming back.
She's gone now. It's okay. She's like on her hands and knees, like she's in deference to something. She's gone. Hopefully she's going to straighten up and sit on the settee now. So yeah, guitars are tuned to, and bass tuned to drop F.
Jeez,
So if S,
I don't even think I've heard that before.
yeah, F, C, F, A sharp, D, G. Several bands play that. Some lower. I think Bong Ripper played in E or something like that. I think, I'm not sure. So it's quite common now for other bands to sort of tune that low. It depends how, but really you can tune as low as you like. But if you don't play the open bottom string, it doesn't count.
Sure.
Well, yeah, so that bottom F, if you can tune to whatever, but if you don't play it, it doesn't count as it. So we use that bottom string quite a bit. But for me, it's more like the flexibility in the strings. I enjoy that loose sound that they have. Like a taut Fender Strat tuned to E standard. It's got a different feel to it. Never mind a different sound to it. So yeah, that's why I tune that low. It just feels good, like the sagginess. And we right at the very beginning we wanted to play like tuned down as low as possible, and it's just kind of stuck. But I'm used to playing that way now. I hate playing on guitars that aren't in drop F.
Right.
I just hate it.
I love how you described that there, because it puts me back to, there was a Instagram reel or something where you're showing a playthrough of a riff, and part of the riff is you sliding down on what would be like the D string, and just the slightest bend, and just in how you're playing it, you can see how loose that fucking thinner string is. And I'm thinking, my God, how do you deal with that? And how you deal with it is you prefer to deal with it.
Yeah, it sounds normal to me. Maybe I have to tune the guitar slightly more during the set, but not really. The guitar strings aren't particularly thin, which makes them more stable.
Sure.
I have a guitar tech, charging me 50 quid to set it up whenever I pass on the guitar. It's not like a big deal. I want to sound that way, but it's not. The science behind it, I'll let someone else just set it up for me. And it's not, it's not like hard to do. It's just that you can only play a certain way, and my guitar sounds the way it does because of the tuning, and I couldn't play more than a feeling on it, or, any like, I can't play Oasis on it, for example,
Right.
Anything like that. So I'm limited in that way, but the limitations are, they're limitations that I want. So it's all good.
Where did the term Caveman Battle Doom come from, and why does it fit so perfectly?
It came from our first ever poster. We played in a venue called Rover Bar in Liverpool, and we played with a band called, if I recall correctly, Zangief. I'm sure they played it. And we, the guy who went on to become the first bass player in Conan, John McNulty, was the promoter of that show, and he made a poster for the show, and he called us like Primitive Battle Doom or Caveman Doom or something like that. And then when we first released Horseback Battle Hammer, the label that put it out on CD, they're from London, and they were called Aurora Borealis Records. And the first T-shirts that he had made had Caveman Battle Doom on the back, and like silver ink on a black shirt, and I remember. And he had Caveman Battle Doom on the back, and it just stuck. We made up our own genre. It's like funny,
Right.
But it's people identify us with that now because they believe that we're serious about it, when really it is just a bit of a joke name. But I don't mind. I'll take that. If they think it's cool, then fine.
Who and what are some of the influences that have led to Conan's sound and how you write?
In terms of the sound, Slamatics from Belfast and Fu Manchu, because both of those bands really wanted me to play fuzz pedals through valve amps. And in terms of how I play, probably the first influence would have been Nirvana, Caveman, because the first band that I ever learned the music in any meaningful way was Nirvana. And I remember on my 18th birthday, I was learning to play at the time, and on my 18th birthday, the man in the shop I was buying a leather jacket. My granddad saved up some money and gave me £100 for my 18th birthday 30 years ago. And I was buying a leather jacket from a shop in the Arndale Centre in Manchester. And I remember the man in there was asking me, was I at school or blah, blah, blah. And I told him I was learning guitar. And we had a chat about power chords. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'm learning to play Nirvana songs at the moment. Is that what he was doing? And he's like, yeah, just a power chord. And he showed me how to play. He wrote it on a napkin, just in tab, like.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. I was like playing like the full chord, like the full, like, like all four things. And so I learned then how to play the way I play now. So it just kind of stuck. I started playing drop tuning because of the band Helmet and the album Betty, and in particular the song Milk Toast. So that was the first song that I ever tried to learn with the drop tune guitar down to drop D, which I think is the tuning that Lithium was written in by Nirvana. So I went on to learn Lithium after that, and then from there I was like, oh, this sounds way heavier than standard tuning. And then just over time, just started tuning lower. But I much prefer that. I much prefer the drop tune style of playing because it's a lot. There's a lot you can get a lot more interesting riff progressions, and it's a lot for me now. It's the only way I tune my guitars, so it's got to be a dropped F.
What's the quintessential Conan song or album?
I would say Horseback Battlehammer.
All the way back.
Yeah, the reason why I say that is when I've discovered a band, I always make the mistake of listening to the album that they just released at that point. And then when I go back in their back catalogue, I either think, the sound isn't as good there. Like, for example, with Iron Maiden, I'm a big Iron Maiden fan. First album I heard of theirs was Power Slave. But then I've still got the original tape cassette that I had when I had my paper round when I was like 14. It's like, it's a long way away. It still works. But when I remember discovering Power Slave and Seventh Son, but then when I went back to the beginning and started listening to like Number of the Beast, I remember thinking, the production's not very good. And I was too naive to appreciate the music itself. For me, it was how loud it was, and it didn't sound as cutting as Power Slave because of the way they recorded it. A bit like Slayer. When I first discovered Slayer, it was South of Heaven. But then when I went back and listened to Hell Awaits or Show No Mercy, even though the music was just as good, it always bummed me out that the production was a bit less different. So I would say start at the first album with any band that you're into, in particular Conan, if people are interested in us. Start with the first one, which already sounds cool, and then work your way forwards from there.
Do you prefer writing or playing live? Writing and recording. Play live.
Playing live by a long way. I love writing and recording, but it's always a relief when it's done. Playing live, I'm always gutted when the show's over. So that's the measure I take of it. I playing live is the fun bit. Recording and writing feels like the work bit. And I do enjoy that, but nowhere near as much as I enjoy playing live.
What's the best or favorite tour or show story then?
I get asked this quite often. The best one was probably glancing over and seeing Scott Hill from Fu Manchu watching us at one of our shows, show in Switzerland one time. Or every show that we have a pit is always the best show. I remember playing Damnation Festival in 2022, I think. And that was amazing because there was a pit at the show, and like it was the first sort of festival appearance we had in the UK where people were going crazy, and I'll never forget that because it was such fun. So for me, it's always all those shows where we get good audience interaction. I'll name one show that stood out just because of how violent it was, and that was a place called the Auditorium. And I think it's North Carolina or South Carolina. I don't remember. But it's just like a small venue, probably hold 100 people. And the pit in there was so violent. There was actual fights going on in there. Someone got thrown against the wall and like cut the head open and had to be ejected. And it was the one show where I think back, like, thank God no one brought a weapon in because that was that was really violent. So I'd say that was probably one of the highlights.
How much attention do you pay to things like streaming numbers at this point, and what can be gleaned from them?
I don't look at it because we're at a level now where we're not going to like all of a sudden jump up in streaming numbers. Our growth has been gradual and based on hard work. We have never really been on a label that's ideal for us. So the bulk of our fan base has been grown from touring. So I'm more interested in like how many shows have we played and how many tickets do we sell. That's a difference. And over like since 2012, 13, we've consistently grown a little bit each year. I mean, the numbers are interesting, but we don't have, like, if we were signed to someone like Nuclear Blast or Century Media, we'd probably get a lot of listens just because of how they push the band on their own networks. Um, we don't really push our streaming platforms all that well. Maybe we should, but we're not all that fussed on it, to be honest.
Speaking of shows, are there? I know there have been some shows and some festival stuff planned. Are there any larger touring plans in the works?
Yeah, we have got some touring plans which will be announced soon, which I can't divulge, I'm afraid. But we do have maybe we might be not too far from you at some point soon. But we do have some stuff in the pipeline.
I would love for something near me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have got some cool stuff on there which we're working on right now. That'll be announced soon enough.
So, Mom's made an appearance twice now.
Yeah.
What does Mom think of Conan? How does she take the band?
Yeah, I think she likes it. She shares my Facebook posts sometimes to her 60-year-old friends, and it's cool. I mean, my mum and dad have been very supportive of me. Ever since being a teenager and wanting to learn how to play music, they've always made that possible. They would come to my early shows. They've been to a couple of my more recent shows, and yeah, they think it's cool. It's what I do for a living, and they have always been there throughout that whole period. So yeah, it's great. And she should come in and say hi, because she's actually a really important person. And crawling around the floor was a really weird thing to see. She should totally Mom. She might not come in. She was too shy, but she should totally come in and say hello to you.
Absolutely, tell us what she thinks about the band and all that.
Yeah, I think Mom. Sound weird now, shouting Mum. She won't come in anyway.
This might be impolite in some way, shape, or form. You mentioned earlier that you're 48. I'm 42. I stayed out a little past midnight last night, and it's almost 3:00 here, and I'm still fucking feeling it. How do you at 48 go out and do this fucking shit?
Well, getting into a routine on tour is important. And getting enough sleep and drinking enough water and not drinking too much alcohol is the main key. I know I'm on my second glass of 6.8% beer, but I honestly don't drink a lot of alcohol. And when we're on tour, I barely drink any. On our US tours, I tend to have a whiskey and ginger when we finish, maybe one or two. I might have a whiskey and ginger before, at some point in the evening building up to the show. But again, I don't drink a lot. So for me, they're the things. I mean, obviously I'm a vocalist, so I can't drink a lot of alcohol. And also by that same token, I don't drink a lot of dairy. So I don't drink a lot of milk. I'll have coconut milk if I'm going to have a coffee, or I'll have a black coffee. And in terms of my energy levels, I'll have a nap if I feel tired. And if I know that it's the first week in a tour, in the US, for example, I'll know that I'll need a nap in the afternoon, or at least on the drive to the venue. Otherwise, I'll be struggling for energy. So I just don't tend to sweat it too much the first week. And I'll have a nap whenever I feel like it, like a cat. And generally, a week into the tour, I'm sort of okay then with the local time zone. It's easier.
Are there stereotypes about heavy music and the people that play or are into heavy music? And if so, would you like to dispel or encourage them?
Both. People's impression of people who are into heavy metal and go to shows think of them as knuckleheads who smash beer cans on the head. Now, I never see that, but I want to see more of that. So that's the sort of where I'm going to come from that. I want more caricature, dumb as fuck metalheads who smash beer bottles on the heads and throw the horns at every show. That's really what I want. I'd love a crowd full of those kind of people. At the moment, we get a mixture of all sorts of people, which is beautiful, and I really love that. But yeah, a couple of knuckleheads at the front with smashing PBRs on the head would be amazing, because that would be totally Beavis and Butthead for me, and I'd love it.
What a fucking wonderful answer. This show is called The Epitome of Stupidity. I'm gonna ask this one last stupid question, and then round into the way that I finish these things. I can't help myself. It's there. I have to do it. I've been trying to talk myself out of it. How tired of you are Korn Jon Davis connections?
I encourage them because it's good for it's good for Facebook likes. I'm aside from my name being spelt exactly the same as his, there are no similarities at all. I wouldn't mind his bank balance, but aside from that, I'm totally cool with it.
Yeah.
And he's older than me, I think, so he probably had the name first. But on my Facebook profile, whenever there's a story shared about Korn or an interview with Jonathan Davis, I always share it and thank the editor as though it's me. So I think they're probably more sick of me than I am of them. I think it's cool.
I'll tell you what. I lied. I have one more stupid question before we round into the barrage of stupid questions. You mentioned that you were doing one of these interviews before getting on the call with me. I'm sure you've done a ton of these leading up to this. Again, 20 years into this, how sick are you with things like this?
Not at all. I love it.
Mean, I'm sure you're getting asked some version of the same questions throughout it, and you're still enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love it. It's what I've wanted to do since I was a teenager, being in a band. So to have some recognition and have people who want to interview me and talk about the band is a real honor. It's a privilege because I've been doing this full time since 2013, and I've wanted to do it since I was a teenager, like 16 years old. So that was 1992. So I've from 1992 to 2013. It's I've been building up to being able to do this full time. So to get to a point where we've now got a handful of releases behind us, and we are interesting enough for people to want to spend time and interview me and ask me questions about it all, it's brilliant. So I appreciate the time that you've given me, and I appreciate the time that anyone does when they jump on a call and want to talk about us, because it's just like, I'm really lucky to be able to do this. Apart from in lockdown where I had to work for the Home Office for a year or two, this career of mine has given me so much time. It's given me like 8 or 9 hours a day that I wouldn't have had to myself if I had an office job. So you count that up over the last however many years it's been, and you'll see very quickly that it's something to be very grateful for. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Awesome. Without further ado, now I will round into the stupid questions that I've threatened you with a couple of times already here. We'll start off with what I think should be an easy one. But then again, you know what? I'll just ask it. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
What's something you could eat for a week straight?
Nutella.
Beatles or Stones?
Neither.
I kind of saw that one coming. If you had to compare,
not because of any doom metal thing, it's just that I'm not into that kind of music.
If you had to compare Conan's music to an animal, what would the animal be?
A dead whale.
If you could ask one animal one question, what's the animal? What's the question?
I'd ask a sloth, what the fuck is taking so long?
There it is. What's a song you grew up on that you hope you never fucking hear again?
She Loves You, yeah, by the Beatles.
So I think by default there, the Stones get the note.
Yeah, even with that, no.
He's bullish on this one, folks. What's one heavy song that everyone should hear before they die?
I Hate Myself and I Want to Die by Nirvana.
I didn't see that one coming. I should have, though. You already... Anyways.
It's a great song.
Scale of 1 to 10. How good are you at keeping secrets? 10 being your fault, 1 being maybe don't tell John things.
I am. I'd say 10.
Oh wow, he's a full vault.
Well, you're about to tell me your secret.
I was hoping that you'd tell me secrets about tour dates and stuff.
Oh yeah, no, I'm pretty good at that.
What's the first album you ever bought, not format specific? I think you might have already said it, actually. Was it the Iron Maiden cassette?
The first album, yeah.
Yeah.
Iron Maiden, yeah, on cassette, Power Slave.
Go-to karaoke song.
I've never done it, but I'll probably do More Than a Feeling.
I love how you're tying things together here.
Yep.
This one I have to explain to people across the pond every now and then, so we're going to see how this works. Sausage links or patties?
Links.
Good man. The last one here is completely unique to this show. No one's ever thought to ask a question like this before. Patent pending, all those fun things. You, Jon Davis of Conan, not Korn, are sent to an island for the rest of your life. You get to take one album with you. What's the album?
Adidas no, not Adidas. No, that's a Korn track. Harvest by Neil Young.
This has been a lot of fun, man. Tell your mom I said thanks. That's not a sentence I should have said out loud, but I did.
I'll tell her. Don't worry.
At this point, I'd like to say thanks to Jon for talking with me today. Again, the new Conan album, aptly titled Violence Dimension, is out everywhere on April 25th, and you should absolutely be planning on listening to it at the highest possible fucking volume as soon as you can. All the relevant band links are in the show description, wherever it is that you're listening to this from. And again, please hit the subscribe button to wherever that may be. Thanks as always to the show partners, the Brimming Horn dudes there with the mead, as well as Sonic Temple, which again is coming up here in a couple weeks. All of their links, as well as the podcast links, are in the description as well. Hit the old like, follow, subscribe, whatever works. I think that's enough for me. At this point, I'm going to kick it back over to Jon to introduce the song for us and get us out of here properly.
I am going to suggest that you listen to Curmudgeon by Nirvana.
That's fine and good, but we're going to listen to Foeman's Flesh right now off the new Conan's album.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I beg your pardon. Well, that second can of beer wasn't a good idea, I can see.
No, I mean...
You should listen to Foeman's Flesh off our new album, Violence Dimension. Go for it.